All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something pretty interesting today, and it's actually something one of you specifically requested, so thanks for that. We're going to be looking at the Tibetan Book of the Dead,
The Bardo Thodol, yes.
right, the Bardo Thodol, and we're going to see how it compares to what people say about near-death experiences, those NDEs you hear about.
It's a fascinating comparison for sure, especially since, you've already got some background on the Bardo Thodol. We can get a little deeper than just surface level stuff.
For sure, for sure. But just so everyone's on the same page, can you give us a little rundown, like what exactly is the Bardo Thodol?
Well, it's often called the Tibetan Book of the Dead, but that doesn't really capture the whole picture.
Yeah, it's not like a spooky Halloween kind of thing.
No, not at all. It's more of a guidebook, really, a guidebook for the journey after death. It lays out these different states of existence called bardos, which you go through after you die.
So it's not about like heaven or hell or anything like that.
Not exactly. It's more about the journey, the transition. Think of it like imagine traveling between countries. Each bardo is like a different country with its own unique customs and landscape.
I like that. I like that analogy. So what kinds of things happen in these bardos? What does the bardo thodol say?
Well, there are 6 bardos in total. The first one, the Kine Bardo, is all about the process of dying, like what happens as your consciousness starts to separate from your body. And it describes things like, seeing a bright light or feeling a sense of peace or even having visions.
And that's interesting because a lot of those same things, those same experiences, pop up in people's stories about near-death experiences, right?
Exactly. Right from the beginning, we see some pretty striking similarities.
So where do we go from there? What happens after this first bardo?
So then you move into what's called the Choniad Bardo. And this is where things get really interesting, I think. Well, this is when you start to encounter all sorts of different beings, I guess you could say. Peaceful deities, wrathful deities, all sorts of figures from Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And the way they're described, it's almost like they're these psychological projections, representations of different aspects of yourself.
Wow. So it's not just about like meeting God or the devil. It's a lot more symbolic than that.
Much more. And it's not just passive either. The Bardo Thodol actually gives you instructions on how to navigate these encounters, how to avoid getting caught up in negative emotions or attachments. It's all about recognizing the true nature of reality and achieving liberation from suffering.
So it's like a spiritual roadmap.
Almost. Precisely. And this is where those connections with NDEs become even more fascinating. Because
Oh.
you see people describing similar encounters, but often in a more personalized way, I guess you could say.
Like instead of deities, they might see angels or deceased loved ones.
Exactly. Or sometimes even figures from their own cultural background. It's like the same underlying archetypes are being expressed through different lenses.
Which makes you wonder, right? What are these beings? Are they real entities? Are they symbolic? Are they some kind of manifestation of our own consciousness? It's a big question.
It is a big question. And honestly, I don't think there's one simple answer, but it's definitely something to think about.
Absolutely. So what else happens in these bardos? I mean, how long does this whole journey last?
Well, according to the Bardo Thodol, the whole process takes 49 days. But of course, that's not 49 days in the way that we normally understand time.
Yeah, I was going to say, time probably works a little differently in the afterlife.
For sure. The Bardo Thodol talks about how time can feel stretched out or compressed depending on your state of mind. And that's something we see in NDE accounts as well. People talk about how minutes can feel like hours or how entire lifetimes can flash before their eyes in an instant.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
But I guess it makes sense, right? If we're talking about consciousness outside of the physical body, our normal perception of time might not apply anymore.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to think about. And it ties into this idea that the Bardo Thodol isn't just about what happens after death, but also about understanding the nature of consciousness itself.
It's like it's giving us clues about the bigger picture, even while it's guiding us through this specific journey.
Right. And that's something that I think is really relevant to all of us, whether we believe in reincarnation or not.
How so?
Well, if the Bardo Thodol is right about consciousness existing beyond the body, then that raises all sorts of questions about what it means to be alive, what it means to be human. And if the principles it outlines can help us navigate the challenges of the afterlife, maybe they can also help us navigate the challenges of this life.
That's a pretty profound thought. So are there any other, I don't know, big takeaways that you think people should know about the Bardo Thodol and its connection to NDEs?
Well, one thing that really stands out to me is the idea of the life review.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier, but it seems like a pretty central part of the whole experience.
Definitely. And it's not just about reliving your past, it's about confronting the consequences of your actions, seeing how your choices have impacted others.
It sounds intense, like maybe even a little scary.
It can be, for sure, but it's also an opportunity for growth, for understanding. The Bardo Thodol emphasizes the importance of compassion, of recognizing that everyone is on their own journey, making their own mistakes.
So it's not about judgment, but more about reflection and learning.
Exactly. And I think that's a really valuable message, even if you don't subscribe to the whole Tibetan Buddhist framework.
Definitely. It's something we can all take to heart. Well, I don't know about you, but my mind is officially blown. There's so much to unpack here.
I know, right? It's a lot to take in.
But it's also incredibly fascinating. And I think it's important to have these conversations to explore different perspectives on what happens after death. Who knows? Maybe by understanding the Bardo Thodol and these NDE accounts, we can start to make sense of our own mortality a little bit better.
Or even start living our lives differently, knowing that this might not be all there is.
Right. Because if the Bardo Thodol is meant to help us navigate the afterlife, well, maybe those same principles can help us navigate this life too. Something to think about, right?
Definitely something to think about.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap things up here. Huge thanks to everyone for listening, and especially to the person who requested this deep dive. We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
It was a pleasure.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those requests coming.
Please click like and then subscribe. Also share this video with your friends. Thank you.